was a great thing. And what did my kids come home with? The songs in their heads. So we can take away some of the fear for the children. We can teach them what to do, and then that will hopefully ease that fear for the parents as well. That, oh, my child knows what to do when they see a weapon, or when they see somebody else carelessly holding a weapon, or something.
And we're not talking about having the weapons laying out. Right?
No, exactly.
I mean, that's the thing.
But worst case scenario.
Well, worst case scenario is somebody makes a mistake and leaves their weapon laying somewhere. But I mean, I'm trying to visualize this as how the staff member handles this. Does anyone have an idea of, okay, is the weapon in a holster on your side all day long? How does this work?
There are several outstanding technologies available for biometric locking safes, small safes that can be bolted to the bottom of desk drawers, that you don't have to have the weapon immediately on you. And in an active shooter school response, I'm not advocating ever that the teacher goes out running down the hallway looking for the shooter. That teacher is there to take care of their students. So we can very easily keep the weapon locked up in a file drawer, in a desk drawer, someplace like that, and still provide immediate access and the ability to take care of that. For you to say, well, what if someone leaves their weapon laying around? That's an act of negligence, and it needs to be dealt with very severely. I mention this all the time. There's no such thing as an accidental discharge or a firearms accident. It is an act of negligence, because guns don't just go off by themselves. So it's very easy to put all of the components in place to make sure that the firearm is protected from the students. I almost said so that the firearm is safe, but a firearm is neither inherently safe or unsafe. It is the actions of the person with the firearm. And to address Laura's comment, the term we use all the time is education, not isolation, helps people. And that's true for everything. You teach your children how to use the stove. Teach them about what to do with a firearm. Because education keeps people safe. Isolation does not.
And that's exactly the word I was going to use, is education. I think every one of us can probably still repeat the fire drill that you had in your school because you did it over and over and over again. It was education. You know what happens if there's a tornado. It's education. So we have to educate our kids now, unfortunately, what happens if there's an intruder. And to involve a person that has a firearm is part of that education. So.
Good point.
Hi, my name is Dan Reich. I only have 4 kids in school. 4 kids at Morning Star. Yeah, I know. Usually 4 is a lot. So I'm a parent of 4 kids, had varied experience. I'm a hunter, concealed carry holder, spent 6 years with the Air Force National Guard as a security forces member. Just have a few comments, a few thoughts. To the gentleman's question before, have there been any mishaps in other states? The other thing to think about is it's hard to prove or show a negative. You don't know how many incidents have been prevented by having people armed. One of the things we learned in the Air Force is just about being a hard target. Being the one that, I don't know that I want to go into that school because there might be somebody armed. I'm going to go to the easier target. With the pamphlet that they had, what impressed upon me was how fast the incidents happened. All of them were within about 10 minutes. And it takes a while for police officers to get to a school to respond, and a lot happens in 10 minutes. I know I've worked for over a decade in the Germantown school, substitute teaching, and in the high school and the middle school, they have an armed police officer on duty at all times. So they have somebody there they feel is important in a public school. So I like the idea of having somebody concealed carry, whether it's one teacher, multiple teachers, whomever, just as that hard target, and so somebody has to think about it and to help protect our students.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on that, I think it's important to realize that the vast amount of shootings take place in commerce. Those are malls, places of business, and so forth. About 50%. 25% of the shootings take place in schools. But what's the difference between the shootings that take place in commerce and the shootings that take place in schools? It's the amount of casualties. And even though school shootings only account for about 25% of the 160 shootings that have been studied by the FBI, the casualty count is near 30 and wounded 8. And when did those shootings stop? In one case, it stopped because a citizen intervened. In other cases, it stopped because the police arrived. But as much as I respect law enforcement officers, it takes them time to react to a school shooting. And if anybody can be a hard target, they need to be. My tactical trainer reinforced this time after time after time when I did not seek cover. He said, how are you going to protect your children if you're dead? So that's all part of it, and it's all part of the training that you have to go through. And these are the kinds of things that I think are important for people to realize, that the police investigate more than they stop crime. And until everybody is aware of that, I think this is a step in the right direction.
First,
Yes. Where else in Wisconsin can you go and know that if you want to cause harm and kill people, where's the easiest place to go right now where you know nobody will be harmed unless they're violating the law right now? And that's the schools. And like Mr. Moss was saying with response time, by the time somebody actually is able to call 911, give the information to the dispatcher, she needs to give the information to the officers, and whatever officers are available, if any. There's a lot of times where I work where everybody's busy on arrests, at car accidents, domestics. It's a lot of times we're asking other agencies for help on calls, and even if we're not on calls, for us to get the call, to get to the school, to try to figure out where the shooter is, or if somebody's using a knife to stab people or whatever it is, it's gonna take 7, 8, 10 minutes to stop this. And I think that something needs to be done before the police get there, because we'll investigate everything good. It'll probably be over by that time. We'll find out what happened and maybe why, but something needs to be done, and the shooter or killer needs to be confronted.
One step further was what I immediately focused on with the study, is that how many of them committed suicide? Was it 64?
Yes.
Oh, 64 of the study actually committed suicide. They went to that school or went to that place of business for this purpose. They did not go to discuss things, to chat. They went with a purpose. It was to hurt someone because they felt they've been hurt or wronged, and to end their life. I don't think that in that situation, in their heads, they go to, they're blind to all of the things. These children are not children. The teacher is not a teacher. They are all targets. And we have to respect that on how we deal with the situation. And that 64, within 2 minutes, some of them ended in, within 2 minutes just were done with what they felt they were done with and ended their own lives. And there's no way you can combat that other than protection and protecting yourself and arming yourself.
I'm going to get to the 2 questions. Sheriff, I think you had something to say.
Yeah, I just want to make Jim wait a lot longer. I just wanted to touch a little bit on the response time piece of it. Cops want to be there to help. They want to take care of these kinds of things, but just the realities of it is, unfortunately, we have this historical data on these kinds of incidents, and what it kind of comes down to is it's a minute or 2 where you can make a difference, and after that, law enforcement cannot respond to something like an unknown event that is going to happen at some point in the future and be there regularly in a minute or 2. Even when you have liaison officers in schools, that's potentially 1, maybe 2 officers in the larger schools. How many square feet are we talking about? How many entrances? How many different people and hallways to get through and all those kinds of things. A lot of damage can be done in those first few minutes. And the reality is, if there's going to be any kind of real response to protect schools, it needs to come from within the schools going forward, I think. And this we've been talking about is people who are maybe disturbed or have some sort of issue with somebody at the school. This isn't even getting into whether or not terrorism from outside countries becomes a bigger thing. And that if we're looking at this from the perspective of Jesse gets his bill passed and the doors are open where local school district can start to decide how they want to handle these things, that needs to be part of that discussion going forward too, is there's even maybe potentially a bigger problem out there yet. So.
Wait. No. Go ahead.
I don't mind waiting, especially with this esteemed audience. My name is Jim Schutz, and I'm from West Bend. My children went to the parochial schools and the public schools, and I have nothing but respect and admiration for them, obviously for the state of Wisconsin, for Jesse, etc. I publish 3 publications, and they're stored on my website. This is a patriotic duty. Years ago, I was asked to do Border News Watch, which is what's happening in terms of border security, largely the U.S.-Mexico border, and down to the border. And the next was Self-Defense News, and that started with projectile weapons, and it ended up going also to economics, politics, education, and so on. So all those issues are available. If you see me later, I'll give you a card. You can visit the website. The last, though, was 2 years ago. I was asked by law enforcement associates to address the issue of the Middle East, largely Islamic State, ISIS, ISIL, and also the various situations with Palestine versus Israel and so on. So that's out there too. And you're going to pick up things that you never imagined. Then you're certainly not going to get in mainstream media because they're way beyond not politically correct. What I want to say though is one of the concerns I have as well, I was in the National Guard for 10 years, law enforcement as a special Dale's operation, but not under Dale. And then also 7 years with West Bend PD as a non-sworn officer, volunteer. I am concerned about people removing their weapons from their holsters before they go in to get their kids and putting them back in. I don't want an unintentional discharge. I haven't heard that issue come up, but that's my concern. We don't want people to have to remove that weapon and put it back in twice a day. They have to go in to get their kids. So that's one consideration I'd ask you people to have in mind. I haven't been approached by any of the parents concerned about that, but that's one of my personal concerns. That's about all. Thank you.
So expanding it where everybody that has a concealed carry permit can go into schools.
That's correct, but certainly, you know, the other points I want to point is people have, obviously the perps or suspects have a different mindset. It may be that they ultimately want to be sure that they are killed. I deal also with suicide prevention and awareness through a group called Life of Hope for Washington County, and also I work with the Washington County, Ozaukee County Health Organization, and our emphasis this next year is mental health and happiness, and that's important. So, but it's hard for us to imagine the mindset of these people, these suspects, and also it's hard for us to imagine the mindset of a truly motivated Muslim. And I can bore you to tears. My wife swears up and down I'm going to go from Catholicism to Islam, and I have a profound respect for Islam, but I also understand the motivation for some of the acting out of the situations, and I hate to even say it, it's disrespectful to say acting out. They're doing what they feel they have to get up to heaven. Money can't pay by what they get in the hereafter and the punishment that they avoid. Those are the sorts of people that we're facing, and they're being brought in through the Department of State refugee relocation. Some of them we think they're coming from Syria, they're coming from North Africa, they're coming from very, in case infused dangerous situations. We see what's happening in Europe. You visit my website, you're going to see more than you want to know.
Jim, I'm
So,
going to stop you right there.
we'll
because
stop.
I think the key point of your question in the middle there was important. because-
Yeah, for the
Yeah,
discharge
I
portion.
want to get it to the panel here because what are your thoughts about expanding? I mean, I know that's not part of the bill right now, but just something to think about.
Well, as the law stands right now, you have to disarm, you have to put your firearm in a box, locked up, you can't take it.
Is that dangerous every time you take it out of the
Absolutely.
holster?
As a firearms instructor, I teach people that fully 90% of negligent discharges occur during what we call administrative handling. You take your firearm out of the holster to do something with it. The honest truth is that if you're facing a threat and you grab your firearm and you point it at the threat, you know what you're going to be doing with it, and you're very, very deliberate with that. At the administrative handling level, you're taking the gun out of the holster for no apparent reason. When the gun is in the holster, it's perfectly safe. And when I make a traffic stop, I have the legal right to take a firearm from a person at that traffic stop, take it back to my police car, and run the serial number to see if that gun is stolen. I don't do that with concealed carry permit holders because my holster is already full. Now I have a loaded gun that they have pulled out of their holster and handed to me, and then I have to walk back to my police car through traffic to sit down and run those numbers again. So I don't like the idea of handling my firearm any more than is absolutely necessary. I put my gun on my hip, and if there's a bad person, I will pull it out and use it. Other than that, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to have that extra level of administrative handling, which could lead to a problem.
Interesting, administrative handling.
I'm Isis Seidler. I'm a student at Living Word, and so far there's not been like any school shootings. But if there was a school shooting, how would you teach the students to be proactive instead of reactive to the school shooting?
Great question. Would you like to answer it?
Yeah.
Okay, feel free. Feel free. Tell us your first name again.
My name is Melissa Mish.
Melissa.
And I have a.
You'll have to step right up to the mic. You don't leave it up.
My name is Melissa Mish, and I have a self-defense company based out of Menominee Falls. We're mobile. And I'm a